Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Wise Talk. It's been a minute. We've got some new people in honor of Youth Day. I am joined here by Wise's young legal team, the young women who are leading us in the courts and in the work that we are doing. I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves first before we get into our conversations. And we want to really talk about feminism, young women, and that intersection with the law and fighting GBV in the courts. Kadi, let's start with you. Please give us your full name and your role at WISE.
My name is Kedijang. I am the attorney on record for WISE.
Great, thank you. And Sarah.
Good morning. Happy Youth Day. My name is Sarah Reddy. I'm the paralegal assistant and intern for WISE. That's my position
Wonderful.
there, and it's 2 months now, but very exciting.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to doing this today. It just felt like the perfect and best time for us to share, these voices with everybody else. So just tell me a little bit briefly, Khadi, you've been at this for a while. As Wise, actually, you are Wise's first attorney of record and hope forever. Of course, things change, but I'm very happy to be working with you. Tell me, before even Wise, what motivated you, to get into this particular aspect of law?
It's a very interesting story because when I started studying, I saw myself as a high shot corporate lawyer who would only wear pencil skirts and sit behind an office in a tall building. And I went through that process. Even during law school and my articles, I was practicing corporate law. But I think in my experience, I started to realize that I wanted my work to do more than just make money for people, more than just make the corporates and the rich richer. And I started to reflect on what is the fundamental purpose of the law and the Constitution, and how I could use my work to elevate humanity, right? And I guess growing up in firstly a country like South Africa, where there's so much social injustice, and particularly for Black and also women, I decided that that was the area that I felt I could mostly contribute to, because I am also a Black woman, a Black young woman. So the challenges that the country faces, especially today, even reflecting on Youth Day, the shocking unemployment rate in this country was just motivation for me to use my studies and my brain to do something that would really impact people's lives. And I think that's one of the greatest things that I can take from my experience with WISE, is that the work that we do, although can be seen to be on an individual level with our specific clients, has the potential to change the way in which they see themselves, their relationship with their children, their safety, because obviously GBV is such we call it now, I even feel like we just throw it around, a pandemic, but we're not treating it like a pandemic in this country, like we've seen with how COVID has been done. But the motivation is the work allows me to change both on an individual level and a collective societal, national level, because our work is not just in the courts, but it's also in the streets, advocacy, on social media, in areas of influence that help us push the envelope.
Wow, thank you. That's quite a mouthful, Kgali, and that's really great to give us that background and that context. It's quite contrary to what we normally hear about young people, that they are motivated by money. So what made that change for you? I mean, you're in Asia, you are technically starting out. You should be wanting to be a big shot hot lawyer. But
I'm a big shot hot
yes,
lawyer.
you are, girl. Yes, you are.
I know that.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. But clearly, you are also out here showing us that there's more to being a lawyer than just the money that you earn, right? That it's also about a commitment to justice, a commitment to social justice in particular. So that's really great. Sarah, you are just starting out, having come to WISE. Actually, with you actually approached us about coming to intern for WISE. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what inspired you to take this route, as opposed to going to some of those high offices of lawyers to intern with them.
Yes, thank you. As Hari mentioned, I think anyone who studies law has that dream of working in a big firm. And that was my dream, but also just being a woman from a very young age. I have been a feminist in my personal life. Throughout school, I used to be the angry through my university. All my friends know me as a huge feminist, always bringing up feminism, and I think it's important. I'm not ashamed of it. So with WISE, I was lucky, like in my personal life, I'm a feminist and do the most I can, participating in protests, hosting my own talks, going off on social media. But I approach WISE because it needs to be more than that. I feel like, yes, I can make a difference that way, but now, like being up close and personal with working with Kgali, working on the matters up close, that inspired me to join WISE. And I've obviously heard of WISE before then and the work that you guys do. And it's just inspiring. And I think we need more organizations fighting for women's rights. Yes, there has been a change, I would say, recently, with more people speaking out, more people supporting women's rights, but it's never enough. We need more. We need more women, not women, people fighting for our rights. So
Great. Well, I think both of you also give us a really good example of young women who grew up feminists, didn't just discover feminism, later in their careers, but literally grew up with the values of feminism, and actually get to be able to live those values through the work that you do. Kadi, in dealing with the courts that are it's a very patriarchal, old, white, colonial system. What have you seen as the biggest hurdles in terms of being able to, bring in the different kind of thinking that you are seeking with the cases that you take on GBV especially?
On a personal level, I think the biggest challenge is because of how the legal system is already structured, being a white boys club, immediately you also undermined before you even open your mouth, before you even put your arguments across. The minute you step into a court, whether it's your opponent or even the judge or magistrate themselves, they have a sense of, who is this little girl in my court and why is she here? And the way in which then from that moment they deal with the hearing, you always trying to, it's not, you're not even in the merits of the case, but you're always trying to show up and raise your voice a little bit harder. And I'm quite like calm and soft spoken, right? So I'm not like angry and fighting in the courts, but sometimes it just feels like that's the to be heard. That's the kind of attitude that you have to, and it's a challenge for me, because inherently that's not really who I am. I believe in, let's tackle the merits of the case. Whether I'm shouting or I'm speaking normally, the merits are the merits. And I think also that's I remember Sarah in one of her some of our appearances, every time she's always like, how do you keep so calm when they just coming onto you like that? And it is the like I've sort of said, it is the nature of the game. I need to put away my personal feelings aside when I walk into that court. And in terms of the work, I think when we started with WISE, I was so excited to just push the envelope. And because, like you said, I've grown up with feminist principles, it makes simple sense to me. Our arguments, our cases, and also not just to me, they are guaranteed in our Constitution, right? It should be easy to interpret it, because we made a commitment as the country that this is how we want a society to look like. So when I then come and say, well, the Constitution says this, or our laws say this, because we've got a very good legal framework around issues of GBV and women's rights. And this person is currently experiencing this, then we need to find a way to bring these two together. But my understanding and my learnings are that it's bigger than just the law. It's bigger than just the case. We have people, whether it's the judge or magistrate, who have gone through their own conditioning as a human being. So when they come to adjudicate your matter, they've already, wherever they come from, have learned certain ways that the world should look like, and it might not be in line with what you're presenting, right? And I remember a big thing with trying to look at the entire system, we heavily rely on the police to do the convictions and the MPA to prosecute before we even get involved as legal practitioners. There are other people in the system. And one of the things that stood out for me, there was a question in Parliament posed to the Minister of Police around, they had done a survey of I don't know how many police stations, and they found that in each of those surveyed police stations, one of the a police officer was a perpetrator of GBV. And for me, those are the systematic challenges, because you as a GBV victim go to a police station to report a case, and then you are supposed to be helped by an offender themselves. At home, you don't know what happened in their home last night before they came to work, and how they then interpret that, saying it's a home issue. Because if they implement or do their job to the highest degree, it means that they will also be liable to the highest source of punishment, right? And those are the challenges. And I think with the work that we do with WISE, I stop looking at the wins as success, because the wins are very far and few between. I started measuring myself as a professional on the content of my argument. We might not even win, and I sometimes know that, but am I brave enough to say this is it and this is how it should be? you know, and what we're slowly trying to see in our judgments, in some of the judgments where we haven't been successful, is that the courts are starting to use the language. And for me, that's exciting.
Certainly. I mean, I think, Kgali, that's exactly what we call feminist jurisprudence, is that regardless of the outcome of the case, we are building jurisprudence that is centered around gender, equality and women's rights within it. And that's really awesome. I'm glad we don't have to get you screaming lessons. It's quite heartening
No, we have
to.
to advocate for that.
Yeah,
When I
okay.
got I
Yes,
have
you are
got
usually with
involved.
Advocate Brenda Matumise Pajibo, who I think can scream for all of us and, can do some of that. But I think it's really, it's exactly the kind of change we are looking for, right? That you can be yourself, and it really should be about the content that you bring into the arguments, and not so much about whether you are soft spoken, hard spoken, or what have you. So thank you very much for that. There's quite a number of people online, and there's quite a lot of comments. Kgali, we probably need your camera on at some point. You've been off camera for a bit. But the conversation is very well received. Please feel free to post any questions that you would like asked to these two young women, bright women, who are leading the work that WISE is doing in representing women in the courts. So, Sarah, what would you say has been the biggest surprise for you? Because I'm sure when you thought we are doing GBV cases, you probably thought it's almost always domestic violence. And as you've seen, some of the cases are child maintenance, some divorce cases. But what has been the biggest surprise for you in terms of just looking at the women that we've been supporting?
Yes, I think, like I mentioned, because I've been a feminist and just a woman in South Africa, I've always been aware of the challenges and victimization that women have faced. But it's been very surprising being upfront and personal with the cases and just seeing how system is, how it's received, how Khadi, like she mentioned, it's just surprising to me that we can go there with the best case. Like, I'll be confident that everything's going to go in our favor because the facts are the facts. And you just go there and she's undermined from the beginning. It's surprising to see how unfair it is. There's no other word. It's just unfair, disgusting to see how women are treated, and especially her. She's an attorney. She's there with her position to deliver her case, and it's just the disrespect has been very surprising. Also, like you mentioned, it's more than just with GPV cases. It's so many, and to see the men in these situations, it's insane to me how they think. I've always been aware of it, but to see it, I get shocked. It's insane, and just how advocate as well as Kadi handle it, always professionally, never get as heated. I'm in the corner just being frustrated and shocked at how they represent themselves, and just it's sad. And because you can see that they've obviously worked on these cases for so long, they know what to expect, how these men are going to react, and it's sad that they have to be professional and be like block all that out. As Kadi mentioned, when we went to court for a matter, just look at the matter and not address the disrespect happening. So it's just been very surprising in that.
Kadi, you've seen all types of perpetrators in the courts, and contrary to what the Minister of Education would like us to believe, even educated men do abuse. You've probably seen lawyers, educated men, maybe uneducated. And it seems that the way that the courts treat victims in general does not change based on who and how they present themselves, whereas perpetrators have an expectation of being treated differently by the courts based on who they are. I think a good example is a case with the DJs that we've been dealing with in terms of whether they're even brought to book or not. So, in your opinion, as you've been at this for a while, is anything changing? I mean, you're getting back court a lot. Is it beginning to change a little bit? I mean, are the judges beginning to recognize the face of this young attorney who is relentless, who's going to file her applications, who's going to know her stuff? Are you seeing that we are beginning to make the kind of difference in the attitudes of even the court staff around how they treat victims when they come in?
I think we've been talking about secondary victimization a lot in terms of the system. So you go through the primary ordeal of abuse in your personal life, but to then attain justice is such a difficult and very cold process for the victims. And then because of how cold it is, it deters people from trying to attain justice. Then we ask the question, why didn't you report? Why, if that really happened to you, why didn't you go to court? But if you go to even we frequent Randburg Magistrate Court a lot, or any other courts that we've been to, try go to the domestic violence section of the court, and they scream, "Who's here for a protection order?" There's a million people waiting to go into court. There's a lot of people in there. There isn't care and sensitivity and like warmth towards that. This person could have just come through. Like I've seen many tears in court, not even just from our clients, but people walking around in the passages, don't know where to go, don't know how to go about it. And I don't want to excuse the behavior, because I can imagine how numb you become, whether you're a clerk of the court. And I think there was some statistic about nationally 8,000 protection order applications go through the system per day.
Wow.
Right. So if you are a clerk of the court and every day you have about 50 applications for protection orders, I can imagine how you have to switch off to deal. But still, that does not take away from the fact that you are a public servant, and this is your job, right?
Yeah.
Even I also get frustrated with some of the clients who use us as use is a bad word, who need us as their crutch, who are also trying to discuss cases at all hours of the day. But you understand that this is the call and the choice that I've made, right? You're dealing with people who are going through what may be the toughest time in their life, and you have or in their minds, or you are the only person that they can talk to, or the only person that can listen, or the only person who believes them.
Okay, so you have to be tough and compassionate.
Yes.
Equally.
And WISE has been running a campaign on the Believe Her campaign for a while, but I think it's one of the most important things. The attitudes of the court are slowly changing because we don't get tired of reporting those magistrates.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so they kind of know that this little one is going to report us.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So what do you think, in thinking back of your education and your preparation and training to this point, what would you, if you were to go to the young people in law school today, what would you add or change in how they are trained and prepared for these roles? What do you think you needed as well?
I needed the measure of success to be different. I needed them to focus on the change that we do, because I think a lot of our understanding about the law is you're only a great lawyer if you win
The
all your
case.
cases. And that was one of the difficulties for me, because I thought like I was on the money with my arguments and I put in a lot of work, and to constantly be hit back by judgments that are not in our favor, we're always appealing, and it felt like you're on the back foot all the time. So because you're on the back foot, it can kind of feel like you're failing, even you're failing your client, because your client also is in a place where she desperately needs protection. She desperately needs help, either her or her children, her family. And then for her pain to not be recognized and validated is hard. So I think it would be preparing young people, and I think a lot of our conversations with Sarah is that it's not about we want great outcomes. This is why we do the work, because we want to push the envelope. But a lot of times you're going to get one win, and also to celebrate that little win.
Yes.
I know the wise ladies are big on celebrating the little wins. And I think it's important because it gives us the motivation to go for the next little one.
Yeah, great. Oh wow, that's really awesome. And I totally agree with you, celebrating every win. And even every moment. It doesn't always have to be a win, right? Sometimes the win is not the way that it has been defined as, winning a case, but sometimes the win is even being able to get the matter to be set down for a hearing. Because we know that not all of these matters even make it up to that point. So that's really important. So Sarah, tell us, because you also fairly you do a lot of the research and the preparation for going to the court. So you tend to also interact a lot more with our clients before they get to meeting the lawyers and dealing with the legal matter directly. What would you say is most important for the people who are completing the intake form on the WISE website to alert us of their matter or to request our assistance? In your going through that, what would you advise people as, things that make it a lot easier for you to be able to move up whatever the matter is that they are writing to us about?
I think firstly, just them taking that step in filling in the intake forms. I think that's extremely important, that more women are now coming forward with their matters. As our discussion last week, when I said, can I please let more people know about the intake forms, I have been telling my friends about it, sharing it on social media, because that's the first thing. The matter cannot be heard, it cannot be dealt with if they don't make that first step by sharing their story, which is difficult. It's very difficult to come forward and to share matter with a stranger. It's difficult to accept that for yourself, but to now take it further, to share it through our intake forms, share it through me, who is a complete stranger. So I think it's very important that they take that first step. And then from there, I think just ensuring that they let us know every detail, let us know the outcome. Sometimes and that I've seen, they come forward and this is the matter, this is what we want sorted out. And it's important to stick by that. I know sometimes the process can be difficult, which I've seen now working with wives, that we've taken on matters, but unfortunately had to pull out or pull away as their legal representatives because they don't want to go through these matters. So I think when filling in the intake form, I think the most important thing is to be dedicated. Own what, not own, but be brave enough to go forward with your matter, because it's in good hands with the advocate and with Kgali. And I think it's just about, the most important thing is about being brave and following through, dedicated, and sticking through with your
Absolutely.
matter.
And we've seen this, that the individuals who come to us have to be just as committed to their case
Yes.
as the support that they are going to get from the legal team. And of course, at times we've had, I think Kgali brought this up a little bit, in terms of people who also just really need an outlet to talk about not just the case, but also just what they are going through. And I think that, at some point we've made some referrals for psychotherapy. It's really important for clients to have a support system and a support network that goes beyond their legal team, which is what the Believe Her campaign is looking to do, is to create this community of supporters for women who are going through this. Wow, ladies, I've taken much longer than I thought we would take, but I want, before we can end this, I want you to tell me how you decompress at the end of a day, whether it's court or for you, Kari, I'm sure also a lot of your days are writing your heads of arguments and doing research on these cases. I mean, a lot of what we deal with is quite heavy. We carry some of the pain of the women that we represent in our bodies, in our souls, because we believe in the work so much. So it'd be really great if you could just share one or two things, how you detach and decompress and nurture yourselves, because we need for you on Thursday, tomorrow, to get up and be ready to deal with the people who think that making an argument in court is just yelling. So, Kadi, you can go first, and then we'll have Sarah.
I think it's talking a lot. It's debriefing we have a lot of debriefs in the team.
Yes.
As well, to understand, to sort of just, after every matter, even if it's a group phone call or court, to talk about what are the issues, what are we learning, what is coming out, how can we better deal with it next time. So I think support. I think one of the greatest thing about WISE is that even as a team, we recognize that work is heavy, therefore you need to be there for one another. So I think it's that, and also coming home, putting my music on full blast and creating a party for myself.
Wow. Nice.
And just like remembering to have fun and to enjoy the process, enjoy some of the things that we're doing. And I think and also celebrate, whether it's a letter that you wrote is now the topic in a newspaper article. It's really seeing that the process is as important as the outcome. So I think dancing and talking is the one thing that helps, and just learning to separate. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I had been struggling with, and I'm trying to teach myself, learning to separate my profession and my life, and knowing that I don't have to be a 24-hour lawyer on call. I can create those boundaries between myself and communicate, as long as I communicate them in a gentle way. But I can do that with the clients, because before I was so consumed, I didn't know when I was not on call. Yeah. So those are my two things.
Awesome. Thank you. And what about you, Sarah?
For me, I have a great support system at home. I've got my sister and my mother, who unfortunately have to hear every time I come home from court, I'm giving them every detail. They know about my matters. because I'm updating them. So again, like Hadi said, just speaking and getting that support. Sometimes, at court, I have to just be on the side listening. So it's good to come home and just get everything out because it is emotionally draining. I've just started out, so it's been difficult for me to adjust, but my family and boyfriend have been very supportive. I also just listen to music, relax. Because I'm a feminist in my personal life as well, it's difficult to, after work, try to forget everything because it's our daily life. And as women, I feel like you can never detach yourself from that. Just being awake every day is already, we have to just be alert, be aware, know what's going on. So it's good to just sometimes relax, be at home, family, music, and detach.
Great. Well, thank you so very much for doing this. I hope you'll be able to have the rest of the afternoon to rest and dance and listen to music because, tomorrow it's on again.
Forward
But
to
yes, and we've had some really great feedback. Debbie has even offered to be part of our support network, so we'll definitely reach out and be taking you up on that. Thanks, Jack, for tuning in. The Advocate is on. Nomzamo Bongongipayo Gwenza. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She's agreeing with us about the importance of compassion and, uh, just being cognizant of not victimizing victims again through the process. Mzikazi, we see your comments. Lee is on here. Lee, you both know Lee Mokwena. So we've worked with Lee and worked with her in this journey. Cyril Tabo, thank you for tuning in. You are a journalist. We hope that you continue to tune in and do better in the media houses in terms of covering this matter. So thank you very much. Wishing you all a wonderful reflective youth day. It's really weird, right? Because with all the challenges we are having in this country, but I have to say that for myself and for Brenda, we are very pleased to be driving this organization and sitting behind and watching young women take charge and make history with all the work that you are doing in a way that also is going to be documented for generations to come when they read some of the judgments and the arguments that you are preparing and presenting in the courts today. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Okay, we're off camera.